Okay guys, in this video, I'm going to tell you how to deal with your tenants when they don't pay rent. I'm Dan Cohan, and let's get right into the video. So thankfully, I haven't had many instances as a landlord of this happening, but I have had a couple, and I'm going to tell you some of the strategies that I've employed, but also learned from books, mentors, things like that on the best ways to deal with your tenants when they don't pay the rent for whatever reason. Now, first and foremost, before this video, I have another video where you can ensure there's ways to set it up and set expectations to mitigate this in the front end and make sure your tenants don't pay rent on the front. The first thing, and probably the number one way that you can mitigate this on the front end, is set expectations and also get Rent Redi rental management software. Link in the description. Use my code for 20% off, and that will let your tenants automatically pay rent on a monthly basis and send them reminders in advance to their email, and then charge them automatic late fees when they don't pay by certain days to take all the emotion and all the decisions for the hard decisions for you out of the equation. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in making your life as a landlord easier, go ahead and check the link in the description. Check out Rent Redi rental management software that I use personally. Get 20% off your subscription with Dan20, and let's get to the next part of the video. Okay, so your tenant hasn't paid rent, you're late, I don't know how many days it is, maybe they're a day late, a couple days late, 10 days, 15 days late, doesn't matter, right? What the key to this is, as soon as they're late, even one day, you need to get on them immediately and ask them, hey, why is the rent late? How are you going to pay today, right? You need to, when you talk to them, you need to frame the questions like this is not an option, okay? The word that you use here and the way that you're interacting with your tenants on this matter, these are not comfortable situations for either party, okay? For whatever reason they're late, I've had tenants in the past where they've told me in advance, like if they tell you, it's a different story if they tell you in advance, hey, I've got something coming up, I'm gonna pay the rent, it might be a couple days late, okay? But if they tell you in advance and they say what they're gonna do and you are okay with those terms, that's a different story, okay? If you're in agreement in advance and they pay a little bit late, but they said that was gonna happen, then sometimes people have issues and but as long as they're communicating with you, that's a whole different story. And that's okay to give people some terms and work with them, especially when they're trying to communicate in advance, because that means they're probably going to do what they say they're going to do, and they're probably not trying to screw you, for lack of a better word. All right. So say this scenario I'm talking about is like when a guy or when your tenant doesn't pay and they haven't told you and it's just not there, right? There's no communication, nobody's talking to anybody, and it's like a surprise, right? We don't want surprises, right? We want consistency. So in this scenario, you want to take a very firm stance, and you want to take on the perspective that first and foremost, your rentals are a business, okay? They are not a personal hobby. They are not, the tenants are first and foremost your tenants. You should have good working relationship with them, but first and foremost, they're your tenants, they're not your friends, okay? You need to make sure when you communicate with them that you're communicating with them from a business owner-client relationship. When people don't pay their bills, the debt collectors come, all right? Same thing needs to happen here. You need to communicate with your tenants as soon as the infraction happens. Do not let these things fester, okay? Do not let them skate and get away with the broken contractual agreement that you both signed on the dotted line and agreed to when you signed and when you got them in as a tenant. If you set these correct expectations for them and they agreed in writing or verbally and they're broken, then you need to get on them right away and sort this out, okay? Because the longer you let them wait, the longer and the more often they're going to do this in the future. And they're not going to trust that you're going to enforce your commitments. And you've committed to them, then you're going to make sure that the rent is paid on the first of the month. Okay, so whether you're doing this by phone call, in person, text message, however you go and communicate with them, you need to communicate hard and fast, take a firm stance in whatever medium you talk to them, and be like, you can ask questions like, why is the rent not paid? But then you need to immediately follow up with, okay, so how are you going to pay the rent now, right? You don't want to ask questions like, are you going to pay the rent or not? Because that implies that this is an optional deal. It is not. It is a mandatory deal for them to pay rent, and you need to frame your questions as such. You need to ask them, how are you going to pay me rent by this day at this time? What are you going to do to complete this objective by this specific deadline. And then you need to follow up with that with, okay, if you don't do that, this is what's going to happen. Whether that be, check your local laws, I'm not a lawyer, but whether that's be, they're going to get evicted, an eviction notice, you're going to file an eviction, you're going to, put their stuff out on the curb, whatever, you're going to do whatever, insert consequence for not paying on time. You need to inform them that if they don't complete the action by the specified date, that this will happen, and you cannot bluff, okay? You need to be in a position with yourself mentally and with your local laws and everything like that to where you can execute on the, I wouldn't even, threats, I guess is a way to put it, or I would say mostly consequences of them not fulfilling their agreement to you for the privilege of living in your property. And that's how I would frame your questions when you're communicating with them, because when people have hard and fast deadlines and they know that you're not screwing around and you're not going to let them skate, they get very creative very fast, okay? With a tool like Rent Redi Rental Management, they can pay their rent with cash, they can pay with a credit card. If they can pay with a credit card, that's a 30-day interest-free loan to them that they can pay your rent, you're satisfied, and in those 30 days, they can figure out how to pay the bill, right? So right there is a super easy way to be like, hey, you don't have money right now? Put it on your credit card and you can figure out how to pay the credit card bill over the next 30 days, right? It's not your problem to help them figure out their financial problems, okay? They should have allocated the money for this in advance, and they know what they have to do. And people, when they are put into positions where they have to come up with the result of the money, or they're going to have some serious problems, they will figure out how to get it for you 99% of the time. And if not, then you have to take the next steps to, end your relationship with that tenant, and however you see fit. But so that is kind of where I'm going to leave it. There's other videos with how to handle that on the back end. It totally depends on your area, your local laws, all that sort of stuff. But I would just leave you with, when you get firm with people and when you don't put up with them not meeting their agreements, typically people will figure out how to accomplish what they need to do very fast and on time. So guys, if you agree with me or disagree with me, please drop a comment down below, hit like on this video, subscribe for more content, check out these videos right here, and I will see you on the next chapter.